The Auburn Tigers advanced to 3-0 after defeating the South Alabama Jaguars 31-15 in Jordan-Hare Stadium. Yes, sir. What's up to my Auburn family? What's up to my Up-Tempo gang? Welcome to the Up-Tempo podcast reaction show to Auburn's 31-15 victory over the South Alabama Jaguars. Just went final in Jordan-Hare Stadium. One of those games, guys, kind of one of those games. A lot of you guys in the comments, you saw it coming. Auburn wins. Was never really in jeopardy of losing, but it did get a bit dicey there at times. Auburn didn't cover the spread. Auburn didn't do what they did last week versus Ball State. Some things to like, a lot of stuff to not like. All in all, just to me, it felt like once the game got going and when you got into the second half, it was like, all right, dude, Auburn just got to get out of here. It really had that feel of Auburn just got to get out of here. Saw Jay Crawford go down, saw Maurice Williams go down. Trying to think of any other injuries that may have happened. Eric Singleton got banged up. I do believe he came back in the game. I don't think we saw Jay Crawford or Maurice Williams enter back into the game. So definitely something to watch there. But Jared Smith, the true freshman, did come in and play well, got a big sack and a big forced fumble in place of Maurice Williams whenever he went out. So Auburn's 3-0. Look, I posted this on X. I don't care. You can call me soft. This is why I don't want Auburn scheduling FBS in-state opponents. This is why Alabama doesn't do it. This had all the recipes of being just one of them sloppy, get-through-it kind of games, and that's exactly what it ended up being. Looking at the stats here, let's go to team stats. Auburn 337 total yards to South Alabama's 310. South Alabama with 170 passing yards to Auburn's 143. South Alabama with 140 rushing yards to Auburn's 194. Third down efficiency, South Alabama 7 for 16, Auburn 7 for 13. And then South Alabama 3 of 4 on fourth down, Auburn 3 of 3 on fourth down. Total plays, South Alabama ran 68 to Auburn 63. And Auburn did have a pretty clean game penalty-wise, 4 penalties for 43 yards. One of those was just an awful call, defensive pass interference call that kept a drive alive for South Alabama. So really Auburn committed 3. And then the 2 turnovers were massive. Auburn, Karon Crawford, who had that on the bingo card? Karon Crawford getting the first interception of the year for the Auburn defense. And then, like I mentioned a second ago, Jared Smith creating the fumble. Auburn able to fall on that. So the 2 turnovers really the difference in a game that Auburn wins 31-15, to be honest with you. Look, Major Applewhite is a good coach. South Alabama is a good team. They recruit the talent around Mobile very well, and Mobile is a very talented area. So I'm not really surprised by this result. I'm not going to freak out, but, we got to be objective and be honest. So let's talk about some things that we liked, and then we'll talk about some things that we didn't like. Some things that I liked, obviously, Jeremiah Cobb, back-to-back 100-yard games, 19 carries for 119 yards, 6.3 yards a carry. He ran the ball well, but there was a big drop-off, like Omar Mapson, 5 carries for 13 yards. Eric Singleton had 3 carries for 15 yards. There was some talk of Alvin Henderson. You didn't see Alvin in the game. And then, obviously, Damari was questionable, and he didn't play. So I think Damari will be able to go next week, but without Darrell Robinson, without Damari Alston, you see how thin it can get at running back pretty quickly in a game that you probably didn't want to have to use Jeremiah Cobb for 19 carries. It is what it is. So I'm impressed with his ability to get some hard yards in between the tackles. He had some tough runs there when he absolutely had to. And Jackson with the 10 carries for 49 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Some really good calls by Hugh Freeze down there in the red zone. Auburn's been very successful in the red zone through their first 3 games, and I think that's something that we could all be encouraged for. So, and I like the play calls where Jackson was able to make things happen with his feet. I like Jackson's decision-making today. He had one ball to Preston Howard that, was a hospital ball. But other than that, I thought guys let him down. Preston Howard with the terrible drop. Cam Coleman with the drop. Horatio Fields with the bad drop. His completion percentage should have been better than 13 to 24. There was some throwaways in there as well, but it was a good decision by him. So I know the stat line doesn't jump off the page, 13 for 24, 143 yards. But I was actually impressed with Jackson's performance today and his just decision making on the RPOs. I think that he did a lot of good, and he was very tough on some of those third and shorts, a couple of fourth down conversions. He made some really hard, tough runs. And the more as this season goes on, I'm really just becoming impressed with Jackson Arnold, his leadership, his his decision making. And so yeah, I'm becoming a believer. We got to see it in SEC play, right? We're gonna find out next week. Huge game, but I thought he played well today. So I was impressed with that. I thought overall the offensive line played pretty well today also. I thought pass protection was solid. I thought that they were good in the run game, so don't really have any complaints about that. Look, it's only 31 points. I predicted Auburn to win 38 to 17, I believe, 35 to 17. So kind of on par with what I expected score-wise. But South Alabama has some really long drives. So I think Auburn could have got over the 40-point mark if they would have had more possessions. I don't like having only the 3 points in the second half, right? But your defense only gave up 6 in the second half. It was just a second half kind of went weird, and sometimes games play out weird, and there was a lot of drives that took up a lot of time and ultimately didn't end in anything and stuff like that. So, another thing, Alex McPherson with a 34, 35-yard field goal, whatever it was. Love to see that, man. The kid's battling through it. We questioned field goal kicker all week. Didn't have to see Connor Gibbs. It was within Alex's range, and he was able to put it through. He was perfect on his extra points. So I love that. All in all, I thought special teams was pretty solid today. And then what else did we like? Jared Smith. I thought Jared Smith played very well. Keldrick Falk was great. We'll go back and watch the game again and get into the guys we missed. But I actually like the offensive performance. Again, I think they could have scored more points with more possessions. It's really on the defense not getting off the field on third down and stuff like that. There's still some things to work on for the off, like the drops. The Preston Howard drop in the end zone was bad. He had another drop. Defender made a good play, but he still should have caught it. So all in all, if you're Preston Howard, some of those plays were physical plays where you got hit as the ball is getting thrown to you, but you're an SEC tight end. That's going to happen. And the drop in the end zone is one of the worst drops you're ever going to see. So I don't want to pile on the kid, but Preston Howard was very, very bad today and did not help his quarterback out at all. And then, defensively, man, we got to talk about it, guys. We have to talk about it. Bishop Davenport for South Alabama, 18 for 26, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns and the interception. That stat line's not going to blow you away. But it felt worse than that. And to me, it's really when you go back to the third down, the 3 of 16 on third down and the 3 of 4 on a fourth down. That to me is where my disappointment in the Auburn defense. They're just guys that are running wide open. Whatever is going on with Caleb Harris, I do not know. I can't make sense of it. He was a guy that I predicted to have an incredible season this year, and it looked like he got benched. I mean, again, we'll have to go back and watch it, but you saw a lot more Fagans and Winners in the second half. It looked like they just said enough is enough, and it looks like they took him out the game. Sylvester Smith, after having a great game versus Ball State, I didn't think he played all that well. Kay and Lee, bad at times. He wasn't awful. He wasn't, Caleb Harris and Sylvester were – they were not good. I wouldn't put Kay in that category, but it wasn't great. And, Jay Crawford getting hurt. That's not great. Rayon Strader got beat on a slant route for a touchdown. Man situation. And he just got beat in a one-on-one matchup. Guys, I think this Auburn secondary is missing Charles Kelly. Let's just call it call it what it is. Charles Kelly is one of the best coaches, one of the best defensive back coaches in the country. And you're seeing a secondary that's full of a lot of the same players from last year not play up to the standard that they kind of set last year. And when you had so many of those guys coming back, the obvious talk all offseason was about improvement. And I think the most frustrating thing to me continues to be the 3rd and 10s. I've praised Durkin so much, but I'm just going to look, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, it's 3rd and Durkin right now. Why can't your defense get off the field in these situations? So there's a lot to figure out because you're going into a tough road environment next week with John Mateer and this Oklahoma offense that everyone's really, really high on, and Mateer's a good quarterback. So, Baylor and now South Alabama, the secondary leaving a lot to be desired. You just kind of expected more. Now, ultimately, the end result for the defense is points, right? And you only gave up 15. So as frustrating as this was, and as frustrating as the way this game kind of played out, especially defensively, like the fourth quarter opened with South Alabama moving the football in a 2-possession game. They could have went down and scored and made it a 1-possession game. So like there were times where this got dicey, but Auburn made the plays there and got the turnover. So ultimately, we saw this a lot from DJ Durkin's defense last year, bend but don't break type thing. You only gave up 15 points. Now, they missed 2 extra points. So I guess this final score should have been 31-17. So yeah, kind of right on line with what I predicted there. But it's the wide open. It's the slant routes that are obviously killing this defense. It's just how open guys are. And then like tackling, just poor tackling. Several times where Auburn has got the guy tackled behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, DeMarcus Riddick, I believe it was DeMarcus Riddick. Maybe it was Bryce Dees. It was either Bryce or DeMarcus, but they just missed a guy that they had. But like, let's talk about DeMarcus Riddick. Where's he been? Where's DeMarcus Riddick at? Another guy that played a lot as a freshman that we thought was going to take the next step. There's a lot of guys that played last year really good as true freshmen on the defensive side of the ball that we thought were going to take the next step as a sophomore, and they're not. They're falling more into that sophomore slump stuff. So we're going to find out because your next 4 games are versus 4 ranked opponents. So you're going to find out really soon. And, we all knew that Ball State was just not a good test. You couldn't really take a whole lot away. I bet Ball State finishes dead last in passing yards this year in Division I football, right? So you can't take nothing away from that. Maybe the service academies, Army, Air Force, and Navy, they'll finish ahead of them. But other than that, look, you didn't learn anything from that game. The 2 games where you were going to learn something, Baylor and South Alabama, it has not met my preseason expectations. Auburn's secondary, Auburn's defensive backs have not met my preseason expectations. Eric Winters, Anquan Fagans, I think you're going to see those guys as the season goes on instituted a lot more. Caleb Harris getting caught flat-footed several times again. I don't know what's going on with it. And the Auburn linebackers in general today, they just kind of seem lost. And look, Major Applewhite is a good coach. I was not surprised at all that they went down and got a field goal on their first drive. Like Major Applewhite, okay. He's a good enough coach with good enough players where he's going to scheme up his script. His first 10 to 15 play script is going to be good. But for me, there was a telling part of the game. At the end of the game, Auburn gets the stop that kind of seals the deal. Ball State's moving the ball, and Ball State moved the ball all day, which is the concerning part. The 15 points is great, but like you also got to look at it and say, man, Ball State, they moved the ball for 4 quarters. But Auburn gets the stop that's going to win the game, right? And the defense is coming off the field. And you see DJ going, come on, guys, get up, get excited, let's go. You can see him trying to say, where's the juice? What's wrong, fellas? Come on. And I feel him because outside of Keldrick Falk and Caron Crawford and maybe a couple other guys on that defensive side of the football today, they just look lifeless. They just look lifeless. The intensity was not there. Jared Smith brought the intensity for sure, but excuse me, really, really, just kind of perplexed at that aspect of it. Now, look, all in all, 11:45 start versus an in-state team. This game, like if you would have told me before the game, Auburn wins 31-15 in a game where it's never really in doubt, but Auburn never really puts them away. I'd have said, yeah, Like, it was very believable. There was a lot of you guys in the comment section all week that anticipated that kind of game. The 11:45 kick, you anticipated just kind of that sluggish, let's get through it. And South's a good team. I bet they make a run in the Sun Belt. They're 1-2 right now with close losses to Tulane. And they should feel like they played pretty well on the road at Auburn today versus a ranked SEC team. So I think South is going to have a very good season. They'll win 7, 8, 9 ball games probably in the Sun Belt. So, and I'm wishing them the best of luck. I know there's a lot of Jags alumni that are Auburn fans. That's a solid squad over there with a good coach. And again, like he recruits the 251 area really hard. And that's a good setup for a Sun Belt team like that because there is a lot of talent in Mobile that gets overlooked. There's a lot of talent. I mean, there's so much talent in Mobile that some guys get overlooked. And South Alabama is getting all those guys, and they know how to coach them. So, like, I want to give my hat tip to the Jags. They are a good team. Look, there's going to be freak out. There's going to be panic. There's going to be certain people that hear the second segment of this episode and say that I'm freaking out and I'm panicking. There's nothing I can do about that. Look, you're 3-0. We take it, right? If you had asked us before the season, 3-0, you would have gave us the score to these 3 games. We would have said, sign us up. A lot of people said, hey, the South Alabama game, it feels like a trap game. It feels like a weird, just like a weird scenario. And it kind of played out that way. And we've seen some of these games early in the season where the ranked Power 4 team just kind of went through the motions and got the job done. Offensively, I will say I would like to see Cam Coleman get the ball more. I know he had the long touchdown and everything, but you're really focused on him against Ball State. Only 1 reception versus Baylor. Let me look at what his stats are today. Player stats here. Let's go to Auburn. 2 catches, 49 yards. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. I hate that. Cam Coleman's got to be a bigger part of the offense moving forward. 1 catch versus Baylor, 2 catches versus South Alabama. That ain't going to get it done, man. You got to get him more involved. Now, I know Eric Singleton ate today. I understand that. Let's see what Eric's numbers were. So he kind of cooled off in the second half. He got off to a hot start. 6 catches for 65 yards. He did average 10.8 yards a catch. So, yeah, just a sluggish game, man. Just a sluggish game. Auburn kind of running the ball, getting through it. You didn't have probably the amount of possessions you wanted to have because your defense was giving up long drives to South Alabama, all that kind of stuff. So, all in all, our Auburn Tigers are 3-0. I don't think this is a game to freak out about. I don't think this is a game that you should hit the panic button on. But I also think that you should be objective and call out the things that Auburn needs to work on. So 2 things can be true at the same time, right? We will be back 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Me and my guy Nick from the Water Cooler Talk podcast. Gonna just kind of talk about the first 3 games and where Auburn needs to improve on, what we like, what we've seen from Auburn that we like, just kind of recap of the first 3 games, and then a look ahead to this tough stretch that our Tigers have. But all in all, 3 down, 3 dubs. We'll take it, baby. Smash that thumbs up button, sub to the channel, tag me at DMcShaw28 on X, tag the Warport Podcast Network, and share this thing out. I love you guys. I appreciate you. I will see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Central Time. War Damn Eagle.